What is going on, everybody? Tonight marks the beginning of the NFL draft, and I am fired up and excited about it. I've been thinking about it really nonstop, probably for a good 3 or 4 days now. I would say this is an unhealthy obsession of mine. I hope you guys are excited as well, and with tonight being a special occasion, I've uploaded this video not only on my NFL Draft channel, but also my main channel. For those of you watching it here on the main channel, which I assume is a lot of you, make sure to go into the description and subscribe to my NFL Draft channel. From there, you'll get to see all my player rankings, my previous mock drafts, and eventually my draft grades once the NFL Draft concludes on Saturday. So every year, the day of the draft, I always like to do one more mock draft. Only one round with trades, predicting how I think tonight is going to go. I'm expecting a wild ride. It's going to be a lot of fun. But without further ado, let's kick off this final mock draft. I would say the last time going into the draft we didn't know who the number one pick was, I would say was probably 2018 when the Browns picked Baker Mayfield, which was a big shock to me as well as many others. Well, this year we don't really know who the number one pick is, but if you can connect the dots together, it all leads to Travon Walker, the edge rusher from the University of Georgia. Ever since the Combine, we have had Aiden Hutchinson penciled in here as the number one pick to the Jacksonville Jaguars and didn't really have to think about it. However, this past Monday, Walker became the betting favorite to be the number one pick for really every major betting site, and that is a lot more significant than you think. Whenever Vegas and betting sites like that make a big change like that, usually it's because they know something. So I think at that point, they knew Travon Walker was probably going to go number one overall, so that's why they ended up changing the odds for it. And I would be very surprised if it's not Walker who is the pick. He feels like a Trent Baalke type selection for right and wrong. Walker is, of course, a freak athlete who really does not have the production that some of these other highly touted pass rushers do, but he has the length, athleticism, and traits to be very good. Personally, I think this would be a mistake by the Jacksonville Jaguars. The four players who I think would be a good pick here are Thibodeaux, Hutchinson, Ekwonu, and Evan Neal. So leave it to the Jaguars to have four really good options and pass on every single one of them. That brings us to my favorite team, the Detroit Lions at 2. This feels like an easy Aiden Hutchinson landing spot, but not so fast. I have the Lions pulling a fast one on us and picking Kayvon Thibodeaux with Hutchinson still on the board. So for me personally, the two players who I would be happy with here are Thibodeaux and Hutchinson. I would be equally fine with either one of them. I think they're both extraordinary players, and I would be shocked if this pick is not one of those two. So I'm expecting to be a happy camper when it comes to this number 2 overall pick tonight. So everyone thinks Hutchinson makes the most sense, and for good reason. He's a fantastic player, played his college ball in Michigan. He feels like he fits the Dan Campbell culture. But my gut is telling me Kayvon Thibodeaux is the pick. While we're on the theme of betting sites, although Aiden Hutchinson is the favorite to be the second overall pick, it's not by a whole lot. Kayvon Thibodeaux is right on his tail. There was a report a couple of weeks ago that Dan Campbell is not a fan of Kayvon Thibodeaux, and it seems like that report was wrong, which doesn't really surprise me. I believe the character concerns of Thibodeaux are completely overblown. People talk about how he doesn't have a passion for football and wouldn't be a fit in a highly cultured locker room like Detroit's, but I don't think that's true at all. Kayvon Thibodeaux played last year with a hurt ankle for much of the season. Nobody talks about that with him. When you listen to Thibodeaux speak, he has an edge about him and sort of a swagger that I honestly kind of like. I feel like he's very confident in himself, but he doesn't go about it in an arrogant or a cocky way. So if you can have guys who have a little bit of an edge to their personality, and now Thibodeaux, who also has a chip on his shoulder with all of this negative energy from the media, I think him in Detroit would honestly be a fun landing spot, and I could really see this happening. I feel like every year there's one top pick that seems super obvious, and I always overthink it, and I end up getting it wrong, and that could very well be the case here with Detroit at number 2. Again, I think it could absolutely be Aiden Hutchinson, and I would be equally thrilled if it's Aiden Hutchinson, but I just got a gut feeling that it's going to be Thibodeau. But again, I wouldn't be surprised or upset at all with Aiden Hutchinson, who won't have to wait too much longer to hear his name called. He goes number 3 to the Texans. I can't see Hutch dropping any lower than here at the 3rd spot. The Jaguars made a mistake by passing on him. The Lions, you could argue, made a mistake passing on him, but I think Thibodeau and Hutchinson have pretty much identical grades for me. But Hutchinson is certainly a high culture guy, and Houston needs guys who are going to buy in. And I think Hutchinson would buy in here with the Houston Texans. Hutchinson helped kind of turn around the Michigan football program. Not that they were necessarily bad, but he was a leader and really helped them establish a winning culture. And Houston needs guys who can really set the foundation as leaders for their future. And obviously on the field, Hutchinson is an extraordinarily great player, and the value here would be very solid. The Jets at 4. This is a fascinating pick. There have been a number of names linked to this selection. It could be a pass rusher. If Thibodeau is here, it could be him. Jermaine Johnson's been floated around here. This could be an offensive lineman. They could go crazy and go wide receiver. But I've been getting Ahmad Sauce Gardner, the cornerback out of Cincinnati. I think this is where Sauce's range really starts. He could go 3, but I would expect Sauce to go to one of the New York teams, either the Jets or the Giants, in this 4 to 7 range. Sauce Gardner is an awesome prospect. He checks all the boxes. He has the length you look for, ball skills, coverage, athleticism, size. He gives it all. There are no question marks with his game, so I think this would be a really solid pick here for the Jets. The Giants at 5 are lucky because they need offensive tackle really bad. They get their choice of all 3 of them. Ekwonu, Neal, and Cross are all on the board. There's a good shot at least one of those tackles is off the board here by this pick, but with Hutchinson falling to the 3rd pick, I had to have Houston go with him over one of the tackles. The Jets could go with a tackle as well, and I think the Jaguars should consider a guy like Ekwonu or Neal, even if that's not the route they're going to end up going with. But the Giants are going to gladly pick him up instead. Ekwonu, for me, is the number 1 overall graded player in this draft class, so value-wise, it's very good. He fills a need. This would be a home run move for New York. That brings us to the Carolina Panthers at 6. I think they should either trade down, which it takes 2 to tango. There's nobody who I could realistically find wanting to move up here. But the pick they should make is a tackle, particularly Evan Neal, but Charles Cross would work too. However, I think Carolina is going to take a swing for the fences tonight. I have not seen them picking Malik Willis a lot recently in mock drafts, but I really think this is going to happen. Malik Willis has the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this draft class, and Carolina has some jobs in that front office who are on the line. I don't think they want to go for a single up the middle with Kenny Pickett, and to be honest, Kenny Pickett is not worth the 6th overall pick. That would be a horrible decision by the Panthers, but I don't think picking Malik Willis here is a whole lot better of a choice. Willis is super raw, and I feel like he would be destined to fail with Carolina, with guys like Matt Rule, whose jobs are in major jeopardy, and the Panthers roster as it stands is not built to protect a rookie quarterback. Malik Willis played in front of an awful offensive line at Liberty. He would be going to an awful offensive line here with the Carolina Panthers. So for Willis' sake, I really hope this does not happen. I think Carolina would set him up to fail, but I could really see this being how it plays out. The New York Giants at 7 goes Derek Stingley, cornerback out of LSU. There's been some buzz that Stingley could go 3rd overall to the Houston Texans. There was also a rumor that the Texans would look to trade back into the top 10 with their other first-round pick, presumably for Derek Stingley. That's not going to happen because he is off the board here at 7 to the Giants. There was a point in time where it seemed like Stingley could fall towards the middle of the first round, say a month or 2 ago. Yeah, that's gone. Stingley's going to the top 10. And I think the Giants could certainly look to add another corner. Stingley has a really high ceiling. We saw that as a true freshman in 2019 with LSU, where he looked like one of the best defensive players in the country. There's a shot he's the first corner off the board over Sauce Gardner. I'd still be a little bit surprised by that, but if that rumor of Houston really liking him is true, you never know. So here at pick 8, we have our first trade of the day. It's not necessarily a team moving far up to this spot. It's actually the New York Jets who have picked 10. They're going to move up 2 spots here with the Atlanta Falcons. The Jets will get pick 8 and pick 43. Atlanta's pick in the 2nd round, while the Falcons get pick 10, pick 35, the highest of the Jets' 2 second-rounders, and 117 in the 4th. So kind of a weird trade here. But if you remember, the first trade last year was a team moving up only 2 spots when the Eagles went from 12 to 10 to jump the Giants to get Devontae Smith. Here I had the Jets picking Jameson Williams, wide receiver from Alabama. It's not necessarily that the Seahawks would pick him at 9 because I don't think that's what would happen. But there are a lot of teams who may be interested in moving up in this range. I know the Eagles have been heavily linked to Jameson Williams. Maybe Washington, maybe Minnesota, although that one would be kind of unlikely. Maybe the Chargers make a big move, although, again, they don't have a second-round pick, so kind of unlikely. But I think there's a shot somebody could move into this range to get Jameson Williams, and I think he's the wide receiver here who makes the most sense for the New York Jets, somebody who can blow the top off of the defense. The Jets have a number of reliable, steady receivers like Elijah Moore, Braxton Berrios, Corey Davis, but I think they need that true game-breaking threat, and that's what Jameson Williams can bring to the table. So if this is how the first round turns out for the Jets, getting Sauce Gardner and Jameson Williams, this would be a really nice haul for them. I think this would be a win for the Jets. The Seattle Seahawks pick here is going to be very interesting because the Seahawks have a history in the first round of picking guys who you wouldn't really expect, and usually it doesn't work out. Their previous first-round pick a couple years ago, Jordan Brooks, has kind of been an exception. He's been a solid enough player. But with Evan Neal on the board, I think even the Seahawks are smart enough to recognize that he is the pick here. There was a rumor that some of Neal's medical stuff didn't come back as hoped. The source of that rumor, I believe, was Walter Football. So I'm going to assume because of that, this rumor is not true. But who knows? You never do know if some of these rumors that come out during draft week, a lot of them end up being smoke, a lot of them end up being fire. I think this one is smoke. I don't think it's true. Neal is not dropping to 9 here because of his medicals. He's dropping to 9 because this is just how the board ended up playing out. Seattle certainly does not complain, however, but who really knows what the Seahawks are going to do? I saw them linked to Desmond Ritter today. Imagine if they picked him in the top 10. That would be a big old yikes. The Falcons at 10 go Kyle Hamilton, safety out of Notre Dame. Hamilton would have been the pick at 8. So Atlanta moves down 2 spots. They trade up in the second round. They add a 4th rounder, and they pick the same player they would have gotten anyway. The Falcons roster is so bad that they could go with a number of different players. So I think this is one of the more fascinating selections in this draft because Atlanta could go so many different directions. However, I think they're really going to focus on their defense. Their defense was horrible last year, and Kyle Hamilton is arguably the best player on the board. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver, Ohio State to the Washington Commanders, the first draft pick in Commander history. I think Washington's receiving core is fine as is for the most part. You have Terry McLaurin, who's great. I would expect him to get an extension soon. I do like De'Ami Brown quite a bit. I'm still intrigued about him, but it wouldn't hurt to add some more. Garrett Wilson is the best receiver in this draft class for me, so I have no problem at all with the value here with this 11th overall pick, pairing him with another former Buckeye in Terry McLaurin. I think those two would be a great 1-2 punch in Washington. Jermaine Johnson, edge rusher from Florida State to the Vikings. He has gotten so much top 10 buzz recently. He's been linked to the Jets as high as pick 4. The Giants could pick him with either of their 2 picks. Atlanta could consider him. Seattle could consider him. The Jets could consider him. So chances are he's probably not going to fall to 12 because really everybody in between picks 4 and 10, except for Carolina, is probably going to consider him. So I would assume he's probably going to go with one of those picks. But again, based on how the board plays out, he falls to 12. The Vikings have a pressing need at corner, but the top 2 corners are off the board. They could always go for a guy like Trent McDuffie. There has been a lot of buzz recently with Kyre Elam going higher than expected. I don't think Elam going at 12 would totally be out of the picture. But I am going with Jermaine Johnson. I think the value here might be too much for them to say no to. So here at 13, we've got a trade. The New Orleans Saints are moving up for Charles Cross from Mississippi State. I would not be surprised if Cross goes a lot earlier than this, but with no tackles going in the top 4, that sort of sets a domino effect here. If Ekwonu is off the board at 5, I would predict the Giants would pick Charles Cross because I know they really like him. But with Ekwonu still there, I think that would be too much for the Giants to pass up. With Carolina picking a quarterback, again, the tackle drop is a little bit later than expected. But the Saints are not complaining about this. They lost Teron Armstead. They need a new left tackle. They're going to go up and get him. So the Saints have picks 16 and 19. They're going to send 19 to the Texans, along with pick 49 in the second round and 120 in the fourth round. New Orleans obviously gets this pick here at 13, along with 107 in round 4 and 205 in round 6. So the Saints move up. They get an elite offensive tackle prospect, and they keep their 16th overall pick. Not too shabby. Jordan Davis, interior defensive lineman out of Georgia for Ravens. There are a number of different spots the Ravens could go here, but adding Jordan Davis in the middle of that defensive line would be quite scary. We know the Ravens' identity is talent on the defensive side of the ball, and Davis is an intimidating beast who would certainly make things harder for a division who has 3 very good rushing offenses, with Joe Mixon leading the Bengals, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb in Cleveland, and Najee Harris with the Steelers. Pick 15, we've got another trade. The Packers moving up for a wide receiver. Never thought I'd see the day, but that's what they're going to do here. Green Bay gets pick 15, 83, and 154 from the Philadelphia Eagles, who acquire pick 22. That's Green Bay's first of their 2 first-round selections, along with pick 53 in the second and 92 in the third. So the Eagles moved down 7 spots. They added 2. They swapped 3s and give up a 5. So Drake London is the pick here to the Green Bay Packers, somebody who has an unbelievably high ceiling, super big-bodied receiver, great with the ball in his hands. Now, there are some questions with London's game, obviously coming off the ankle injury. Is he going to be able to separate well at the next level? I don't think Drake London's a top 15 pick personally, but we know Green Bay likes these big-bodied receivers who have huge catch radiuses, so I think Drake London would be a fit, and I think they would really like him. Chris Olave to New Orleans here at 16. This makes too much sense. The Saints need starting receivers pretty badly, and they need a guy like Chris Olave there. All they really got is Michael Thomas, who's played 7 games in the last 2 years. That's not a whole lot, but with or without Michael Thomas, they could use sort of a route technician who just gets open and is just smooth. And that's exactly what Chris Olave brings to the table. He'd be able to contribute at a very high level his rookie year. The Los Angeles Chargers here at 17 get Trevor Penning, the tackle from Northern Iowa. I've been pretty outspoken that I would not use a first-round pick on Trevor Penning. I just don't see a first-rounder with him. I think he has the upside to be very good, but he's got a ton of work to do. But I think the NFL is going to value those traits too much. The Chargers need to tackle pretty badly. If any of the top 4 projected tackles in this class fall, I would expect that to be the pick. And with guys like Neal and Cross going later than expected, that sets up Trevor Penning to fall here to 17, and it works out for the Chargers. So the Eagles, of course, have 2 first-rounders in this range. I gave them Kyre Elam at 18 and Arnold Ebiketie at 22. I feel like Eagles fans are not going to like this scenario, but you're getting 2 very good football players. You're getting a second-round pick from the Packers. So I don't think this would be a bad scenario for Philadelphia at all. There are rumors of them wanting to move up. I know they've been linked with Jameson Williams, but with the Jets trading up to get him, that kind of stopped them in their tracks. There have been rumors about them wanting to move down as well, and with no clear pick at 15, that's why I had them trade down. So we start with Kyre Elam here at 18. Again, there's been a lot of buzz of him going earlier than expected. I'm pretty sure this is the earliest I've ever had him go in a mock draft, and I don't know if I've ever seen him go earlier from somebody else. Elam is a high upside corner who has a shot to be very good, and I feel like the Eagles are going to want to take a swing for the fences with one of these 2 first-round picks, and I think Elam has the chance to be a stud. Devin Lloyd, linebacker of Utah to the Texans. They got this pick in the trade down from New Orleans, who moved up to get Charles Cross. In my last few mock drafts, I have had the Saints getting Devin Lloyd. Not the Saints, the Texans getting Devin Lloyd. I'm dumb. I feel like it just makes too much sense. They need linebacker pretty badly, and kind of like Aiden Hutchinson, this is somebody who will be able to set the foundation for your culture. High character guy. I think Devin Lloyd would make a lot of sense for the Texans. I think he's one of the 10 best football players in this draft class. So I think this would be a home run first round for Houston. You get Hutchinson, you get Lloyd, and you get an additional second round pick. When's the last time the Texans have been this smart? Trent McDuffie, cornerback out of Washington, the Steelers. This very well could be a quarterback landing spot. I think the Steelers are going to really be aggressive and try to move up for Malik Willis tonight. They have been really liking him since the Senior Bowl. It's not a very well-kept secret that Pittsburgh really likes him. And I think there's a good shot the Steelers do move up for him if Carolina doesn't have their fingers so far stuck up into their rear end that they feel like they have to take him. I would love to see Malik Willis with the Steelers. I feel like that would be a way better situation for Willis, and I feel like that would be a great move for Pittsburgh. But with that option off the table, they could go QB here. This could be Ritter. This could be Pickett. Could be one of the other quarterbacks as a surprise. But I don't think they feel like they have to pick a QB. Mitchell Trubisky's fine for the next year or two. He's a capable starter. He's just not a very good one. So I have him going with Trent McDuffie. I feel like corner is a bigger need for the Steelers than people realize at the moment. I feel like McDuffie kind of fits the mold of corners they like, and the value here at 20 would be outstanding. So I think this would be a good pick for the Steelers if they are unable to move up and get Malik Willis. Zion Johnson, guard from Boston College, to the Patriots at 21. They lost Shaq Mason. They need a replacement. Boom. Here's your replacement. Really not a whole lot to talk about that pick other than it just makes sense. Arnold Ebiketie, here to Philadelphia at 22. This is the pick they got from Green Bay. Ebiketie's good. He's real good, and it's like he's stuck in the state of Pennsylvania. He played his whole college career in Temple, in Philadelphia, so he's already acclimated with the area. Transferred to Penn State this past season. He was really good. He's an older prospect, but I think he's one of the more polished prospects. I think he has a really high floor, and he's going to be a good player for a while. Howie Roseman loves talented players on his offensive and defensive lines. So I think this pick could make a lot of sense, and I don't think this will be a bad first round for the Eagles at all. Here at pick 23, we've got another trade. There was no obvious selection here to the Arizona Cardinals, so I have them moving back with the Kansas City Chiefs, who have 2 first-round picks and a load of day 3 selections, so they're going to make a splash. The Chiefs are getting 23, obviously, along with a 2023 6th-rounder. The Cardinals get pick 29 from Kansas City, 2 4th-rounders this year, 103, 135, and a 4th next year via the Dolphins. I know that doesn't look like the greatest value in the world for Arizona, but they don't have a ton of early day 3 picks, so now that they're getting 2 in the 4th round, I think they would like that. The player the Chiefs are trading up for is George Pickens, the wide receiver out of the University of Georgia. I'm very high on Pickens. I have him as my wide receiver 3. I am terrified about the thought of him being drafted to the Green Bay Packers tonight because I think that is a very realistic possibility. But with them trading for Drake London, that kind of puts Pickens out of the question for them. I think him on the Chiefs would make a lot of sense. I think Pickens in that offense would be a total stud, and I think this would be a great move for the Chiefs, who still have another first rounder at 30 overall. The Dallas Cowboys at 24 get Logan Hall, defensive lineman from Houston. He can play in the middle of your defensive line. He can play on the edge. He's a little bit of a tweener, but he's also versatile in that sense. There's been some real first-round buzz with Logan Hall, and I am buying it. I could really see him going into the first round. Maybe not this high, but who knows? The Dallas Cowboys could use some more talent in their front 7. Logan Hall, of course, played his college ball in the state of Texas with the Houston Cougars, so I think this could actually happen. Now on to the final 8 picks of the day. We start with Buffalo at 25. They get Andrew Booth, the corner out of Clemson. This very well could be where we see the first running back off the board, particularly Breece Hall out of Iowa State. I think he's the only running back worthy of going into the first round. He's been the name linked to the Bills. So this could be Breece Hall. I think the fit in that offense will be really fun, so I kind of want to see that happen, to be honest. But Buffalo does need a corner quite a bit, and Andrew Booth here would be very solid value. He's one of the best playmaking corners in this class. There are some small questions about his game, particularly with the sports hernia surgery that he's just got in the past month or so. But Buffalo needs corner. He's the best corner on the board. It makes sense. All right, maybe the most controversial pick of the draft is Desmond Ritter, quarterback Cincinnati to the Titans. Ritter is the 2nd quarterback off the board ahead of Corral, Howell, even Kenny Pickett. So I've had this as my Titans pick, I think 3 mock drafts in a row. I really see this happening. I think there's obviously a good shot it doesn't. I know this is bold, but I think the rationale behind it makes sense. Ryan Tannehill's a good quarterback, but we saw in the playoff game last year against the Bengals, he's not going to win you anything. If the Titans realize that Tannehill probably is not going to win them a Super Bowl, they at least have to consider the idea of going with a quarterback in this year's draft class. And if Desmond Ritter falls to them at 26 with his upside and his athleticism, it's going to be hard for them to say no. So I could really see this happening, and I would be very intrigued to see how Titans fans feel about this, because I don't think this will be a terrible move at all. Lewis Seen, safety out of Georgia, to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Bucs have a great secondary, but they do have some expiring contracts over there within the next couple of seasons. Currently, according to our lads, they have Logan Ryan projected as their starting strong safety, and he's fine, but he's probably not a long-term option. I think the Bucs may look to add some younger pieces to the secondary who are on new, cheap rookie deals. They very well could go with an interior offensive lineman here. Kenyon Green from Texas A&M would make sense, but there have been some medical stuff the past couple of days that could push him down the board. So I have them going with Lewis Seen, who's been one of the bigger draft risers over the past couple of weeks. Tyler Smith, tackle from Tulsa to the Packers. I have Tyler Smith as my number 4 offensive tackle behind the big 3 of Ekwonu, Neal, and Cross. I think this will be a solid value pick for Green Bay. Smith is a little bit raw. I'm not sure if he's going to play tackle or guard at the next level, but he's one of the youngest players in the class, and I think he's got the shot to be very good. So the Cardinals are on the board here at 29. They got this pick in the trade down with the Chiefs. I have him getting Travis Jones, interior defensive lineman out of UConn. Another player who could be a surprise first rounder for some. He had a great year with the Huskies, was awesome in the Senior Bowl. And I think the Cardinals could use some bodies in the middle of that defensive line. I think they realized that 23 was probably a little bit too rich to go out and get Travis Jones, so why not stockpile on some day 3 picks, which they need quite a bit. I think this would be a good scenario for the Cardinals. The team they made that trade with, the Kansas City Chiefs, are back on the board here at 30, and they go with Dax Hill, defensive back out of Michigan. The Kansas City Chiefs are one of the best teams in football, and they just added 2 top 15 players on my board with George Pickens and Dax Hill. What an unbelievably great draft this would be for the Chiefs if they land those 2 players. Dax Hill is a fantastic prospect, probably going to play more of a nickel role early on, but I think he would eventually move over to safety. Juan Thornhill is on the final year of his contract. Kyler Gordon, cornerback out of Washington to the Bengals. Cincinnati is a weird spot because they don't have any glaring holes on the roster. This could be the Tyler Linderbaum landing spot. That would make a lot of sense. But I think they're going to be intrigued by the upside that Kyler Gordon brings to the table here at corner. And then 32, the final pick of the day, my Detroit Lions. As long as this pick is not a quarterback, I'm probably going to be happy. I don't think we're picking a quarterback here. I was getting Quay Walker, the linebacker from Georgia. So let's talk about the quarterback idea real quick. Please don't happen. Amen. I think it would be a mistake for the Lions to pick a quarterback here. I just don't think it makes sense. Jared Goff probably is not the guy, but I feel like that would just be a waste to pick when you can wait till next year when there's a better quarterback class and hope that you have an opportunity to get a guy like Bryce Young or CJ Stroud, or obviously we'll have to see how the quarterback board plays out next year, whose stocks go up and down. But I just don't think this is the time for the Lions to go out and get a quarterback. I would expect this pick to be on the defensive side of the ball. It could be wide receiver. Jahan Dotson from Penn State would make sense. I'd be happy with that pick. But I'm expecting this to be on defense, probably a linebacker or in the secondary. Number of defensive backs they could look at here. Jalen Petrie from Baylor would be a very good pick. The safeties all kind of came off the board here, like Hill and Seen, so safety may not be as likely. But Jaquan Brisker, Penn State's also an option. They also could go linebacker. I think the Lions like their linebackers, but they don't really have a guy like Quay Walker, who's a big, between the tackles, really good run stopper. I think this would make sense. I think Quay Walker will go before Nakobe Dean. There's been a lot of buzz with Quay Walker going earlier than expected. I've seen him heavily linked to the Patriots at pick 21. There's this guy who's really accurate with his mock drafts year in and year out. I think his name is Josh Morris or something. He had Quay Walker at 13 to the Texans. So Quay Walker could go way earlier than this. There's a real possibility, but I have him here at 32, where he ends up as a Detroit Lion. So that'll wrap up the mock draft. Let me know what you thought of it down below in the comment section. Who do you want your team to draft? Who do you not want your team to draft? Hope everybody enjoyed. Peace out.